conference will now be recorded.
Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our Finance and Audit meeting. Today is Wednesday, October 14th. My name is Andrea Schott, the Council President and Organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you could sign up to speak at our council meeting by emailing Elisa Tinty at emtinty@kingston-ny.pm on November 12th. You could also submit written comments to emtinty@kingston-ny.gov or by dropping them off at the drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following 8594-6120. Please note that phone calls will not be answered during this meeting. The number again to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer for today's meeting, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance the chair, Alderman Doug Koop, committee members, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, Alderman Steve Shabbat, Alderman Tony Davis, and Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, non-committee council member, Alderman Jeffrey Ventura Morel. City staff, we have Comptroller John Toohey, Clerk Elisa Tinty, Engineer John Schulteis, Grant and Corp Counsel Kevin Bryant. Right smack in the middle, and I couldn't find him. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health. And I now turn the floor to Alderman Doug Koop.
Good evening, everyone. We have a lengthy agenda tonight consisting of things including the control started. The first item is from Parks and Recreation, Lindsay Tinbrook, who is unable to attend tonight due to personal reasons, but she is seeking to modify the front door of the Everett Hodge Center to make it ADA accessible. She wishes to transfer $8,200 to contracted services that will be reimbursed by CDBG funds. $8,200 for the Everett Hodge Center for modification of the front door to make it ADA accessible and keypad entry. Any questions, any comments on this? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve. Steve Shabbat. And a second, Rennie Scott Childress. All in favor? Signify by saying aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Okay, thank you. The second item is a little bit more complicated. There are actually three pieces to this. And John Toohey, I may need your help on this and walking through this. Again, this is from Parks and Recreation from Lindsay Tinbrook, who was unable to attend tonight. There are three pieces to this. The first piece is to transfer $169,500 from the Recreation Fee Reserve Trust Fund per a resolution that was made in July, $169,500. The second is to transfer $223,574 of CDBG reimbursement for park improvements to transfer $60,000 of CDBG improvements for the Andy Murphy Neighborhood Center. Let's see if I get this now. Initially 220 per resolution 119 in July of this year, $264,500 of recreation fee reserve was approved, allocated to fund various park improvements. Since that, it was found that $95,000 obtained from CDBG. So that means only $169,500 would be required from the Recreation Fee Trust Fund. Okay. The second piece is an additional $128,574 in CDBG funds is available to fund the capital projects at Kingston State Parks for which a budget modification is included. And to that will be added the $95,000 that was identified in CDBG funding in the first resolution. And finally, the April 19th, Resolution 63 requested a transfer of $60,000 from CDBG funding to pay for improvements at the Andy Lee Neighborhood Center. John, if I got all this right, you're muted, John.
You're right on point, Doug.
Sorry?
Yeah, you're correct.
All of this has zero financial impact. It's complicated, but it all sums up to zero financial impact. Is there a motion to approve? Steve Shabbat, motion, second?
No.
Sorry, Michelle, you have a question?
Yeah, can we please have a discussion about this? I mean, and ask questions. You just asked for a motion to approve, and we should be able to ask questions.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I am asking for.
Okay.
You're quite correct. I am asking for any discussion. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So, Alderwoman Hirsch here with a question. So, regarding the capital improvements at the Andy Murphy Center, what are they specifically?
Not having Lindsay here to speak to this, and she's unable to attend, I have to say I do not know. John, do you have any information on that?
I'm going to pull up what I can find, what I have here. Just give me 1 minute. Some of the specific questions I'll hopefully be able to answer, and other ones I won't be able to, but I will. I have notes for a new range in Hood, kitchen upgrades and senior lounge upgrades at the Andy Murphy Neighborhood Center. If you have more specific questions on the projects, I think an email would be in order to the mayor, and perhaps he could respond back. I don't have any further information on that.
May I ask another question?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. It's directed to John Toohey. Since we already allocated the recreation fees for the park improvements, just curious as to why now we're going to go and take $95,000 out of the community development block grant money. I mean, I know it's not an financial impact to taxpayers, but I'm concerned about depleting our CDBG, reserves also.
So The CDBG money, there's some time-sensitive spending that has to occur there, whereas the recreation fee reserve is not time-sensitive. So that was the reason for that.
Okay, I do understand that. I'm just, again, I just am concerned about depleting the money. I've said this previously last week, concerned about going into COVID and leaving our reserves bare with not knowing what's, about to happen. So.
I did speak, just for everyone's edification, I spoke with Amanda Brook from Community Development before the meeting. She encouraged everyone to attend the Community Development meeting later this month. They have a HUD rep who will be there. Among other things, he will speak to some of the time-sensitive spending issues with our block grant program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
What's the date of that next meeting?
I don't have on my calendar. It was later this month. I can look now.
Okay, but it will be
Michelle,
before.
that's the 28th.
Okay.
It's the 28th.
Okay, so it'll be, okay. I just wanted to confirm that it'll be before the council meeting for full vote.
And Andrea, the calendar says virtual community development on 27th.
Oh, the 27th. I'm sorry, Michelle. Public safety is the 28th.
Okay.
Yeah. You just switch those two.
Okay, thank you.
Question from Alderman Davis.
Alderman Davis here, and adding to Michelle and Alderwoman Hirsch's thing, and it says here we're allocating $128.5 thousand to and the Kingston Point and Van Buren Street parks. And John, can you refresh me? Were they already on the list and that we allocated funds for a month or so ago for the parks improvements?
These projects, no. Let me just grab sorry. Kingston Point, with Kingston Point, it's a playground, which was not on the original list. There were Wi-Fi security cameras in all the parks, but with Kingston Point in particular, it's funding for new playground, which was not on the list, and Van Buren Street Park, that was not on the list, and it's a shade structure, gazebo removal project there. I really just have summary level detail here. If you're looking for, I would say, specific detail on the actual projects, just to drop a line to the mayor, and he might be able to get a little more information. But yeah, neither one of them, Tony, were on the list.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments on this?
One other question.
Yeah, Alderman Davis.
And follow up if someone can answer this question from maybe the city, John and Kristen. And where's the status with these projects? And it was told to us that some of these projects many of these projects would be done, and before the year was out, if I remember correctly. And we haven't heard a status on any of these projects. And again, so we're left in the times about we allocate these funds with the thing that these funds, we need them now because we're going to get these, I believe it was 9 projects done, and we're going to get them done before the year's out, and then we never hear anymore. And we don't get any updates of what's been completed, where it's at. So can we, either one of you answer that, or is that something else I had to reach out to the mayor about?
Kristen Wilson, please.
I can't speak to the status of the parks projects, so I'm not involved in those directly. However, I did want to speak to the timeliness issue for the CDBG funding related to Michelle's question earlier or comment earlier. I was on a call with the HUD rep and understand it now. My understanding is that we have not spent down enough of our CDBG funding for the last 3 years. And when we have over 150% of our CDBG funding in the bank, we can be subject to, essentially a ding for timeliness, for not getting our projects done in time. And so we really need to make every effort that we can to finish projects by May 1st with CDBG funding. And it's challenging when we have projects. What that means is that vendors need to be paid by May 1st. And so it does make it challenging to spend down the amount of CDBG funding that we have over the amount that we should in our bank. So I just wanted to comment on that. And I'm sure that when you meet with the HUD rep at the CDBG meeting, he can explain more. But I think it's really important that everyone understands that, and so that we choose and implement projects that can be done in time. And really the consequence of not spending down that money may be that they take it back. And so if we don't choose projects that we can complete by May 1st, we could just lose funding.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. Yes, Michelle.
I just want to say thank you to Kristen. Completely understand 100% that, how grants work and the money, and we can lose it. All I'm trying to say is I want to make sure that we're allocating this money wisely for the community needs and not necessarily just projects. I just want to make sure that we have a full handle on what we will have available moving forward and be responding.
Okay, understood. Well said.
Like, it's a really, we're just moving into a very uncertain time again. So.
Yeah.
Yes, Kristen.
I respond. I think what I heard when you spoke was the word depleting, and there is actually sort of a need to deplete our funds right now. So that's what I was responding to. However, I felt not using the funds for projects that we don't need. That's determined. But we should make sure that they're projects that we can realistically get done by May 1st. So.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I don't, I'm not saying that the projects that we're speaking of or potential projects are bad projects. I just want to make sure that we're responding appropriately and with what we have for the right reasons. Thank you.
Okay, again, there are three pieces to this committee report, but the estimated financial impact is zero. It's moving money from one place to another and balancing grants and so forth. Is there a motion to proceed on this? Yes, Andrea Shutt.
I know Alderwoman Hirsch had a concern last month when two items were on one committee report. So before we get any further, I think there's on one committee report here, right? And I don't believe that they need to be connected. And so I just wanted to make sure everybody's comfortable in the committee to move forward with all three lumped together, so that we don't have the issue that a couple of people were concerned with last month. So I guess, John, is that even possible? And then to the committee,
Is what possible, Andrea, to separate them? Or
to separate them?
They're all somewhat intertwined. The first two are. The first two are intertwined. Because the 95,000 that's being reallocated, that's going to be used from CDBG to fund the projects that were originally approved for the rec fee reserve, has been accounted for in this budgetary transfer. I mean, you certainly could, separate them all out. It just, The question is if you
And perhaps,
if you passed any one of them without the others, would it be problematic? I haven't spent time thinking about that one.
and John, perhaps nobody finds it problematic that they're all on here. I was just thinking about last month and just wanted to throw that out. So it's
Yeah.
not an issue. We could resolve it now versus it being bumpy in 3 weeks. So if any committee member has a issue with it, I guess.
I would prefer to separate them.
Michelle, to clarify, you'd like to see them separated into 3 separate committee reports?
That is correct.
Randy Scott Childress, please.
My concern with doing that would be that the math doesn't work anymore. So that, that would just be the question to make sure that they were, if you do separate them out, clearly link them, but they're all geared toward the same project. So in that sense, it's the same, the material is all related to the same item. I realize it's 3 movements, if you will, but it's the same symphony.
And they
Yeah,
build that out to 0 financial impact. John,
Just to piggyback on what Rennie said, the first item, the 169.5, is really semantics at this point because the 264.5, withdrawing those funds from the rec fee reserve has already been approved by the Common Council. So the 169.5 is part of that 264.5. 95,000 that's already been approved by the Common Council to withdraw from the reserve is included in the 223,574 for those the Van Buren Street and the was it Hasbrook Playground?
Kingston Point.
Or Kingston Point. I'm sorry, Kingston Point Playground. Kingston Point and Van Buren is the 128,574 balance of that transfer, and $60,000 is kind of on its own with the Andy Murphy Center.
Mm-hmm. And personally, from the chair, I think it's a good. I would like to see this all go together because all these projects are interlinked. There's no financial impact from the city. It's covered by recreation fee reserves that were already approved and CDBG funds. I would like to see these. My personal opinion, I would like to see these go forward. So where we are. We have the committee report here, and if there's a motion to go forward, I would entertain that. If not, we'll do something else. Is there a motion to go forward? Steve Chabot. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion. I'd like to do something here. I'd like to move forward with this. I mean, I think these things are related enough that we can put them on one committee report. The same with last month's community development. I thought that was the same issue. That's why we included them on one committee report. I think this is the same thing. So I'll make a motion.
Is a second by Alderman Scott Childress. Thank you.
I have a question on this. Question?
Are you seconding it, Tony? Because Randy has already seconded it.
I have a question.
You what?
I have a question. Can you guys not hear me? You're muted, Doug.
We could hear you, Tony.
Okay. So, I just wanted to go back on here. You said the original amount was 274 or something and change, John, that we allocated from the reserve funds last month?
It wasn't last month. It was back in July. It was 264.
264. So now we found some money in CBG. So the money coming out of reserves is going to be less, correct?
That's correct.
So we made a resolution a couple months ago for 264, But now we've come back and say that that's going to be reduced out of the funds, right?
Correct. And when you approved the 264.5, we didn't do a budgetary transfer at that time. So now this is taking care, it's showing the reduction, the funds from CDBG, and it's also now doing the housekeeping of putting the budgetary modification in place.
But if I get this right, so 2 months ago, we took out of the fund 264. That
physically never took anything out. Right? It's just an approval, but yeah.
Yes, on paper, right? So now this month right here, we're seeing we're only taking 164 out of that 264 from that reserve, right?
Well, yeah, 169.5, correct. Yeah.
169.5. So yeah. I thought we should have a separate resolution of this for that. You can see the track we're going down. We approved a couple months 264, and so the public can be aware of, like, okay, we played with 264 a couple months ago. Now we're coming back and saying we're taking less, because it was I got several phone calls about taking this money out of this reserve, and why are we taking it out, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to leave XYZ amount in there. So we should let the public know that now we've approved that we are now taking less out of that fund, reserve fund, because now matching is that 95 from CBG. And I know it's 0-0, but we can be as transparent and easy for people to read what's going on, I think is always in the best favor. So I would be, it's on the motion, but I would be, I'd be on the table of having these separated, at least that one separated, so people can understand what was done 2 months ago and now what is going to be done with part of this resolution.
Okay,
so now people can understand that we are taking less money out of that reserve.
Alderwoman,
I just want clarification on where the council voted for the 95,000 to be allocated. Was that the last vote? At the last week's council meeting for the last lump of community block money?
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. That is a motion made and seconded. We've heard comments. I will now call for a vote on the motion to approve the committee report as stated.
Hold on, Doug. Michelle, Alderwoman Hurst had a question. It wasn't answered. Where did that 95 come from? Was it allocated from CBG last month? We're seeing it's been said 95,000 was allocated from CDBG. When was that done? Was that done this last month CDBG meeting? And did we vote on that in common council last month? Did that get counted out? Where does the 95? Where did that 95 come from? That is a question on the floor before we take this vote.
John, can you respond to that, please?
All the CDBG money, the 95,000, and then the balance that's included in that transfer are unspent funds in the CDBG program that don't need approval to be reallocated. So they're originally, my understanding, and if you want to send an email to the mayor, Mandy Brooke, they might be able to explain a little better. Mandy works with every day, but these are funds that were allocated a project that just didn't get spent. So now that these funds are part of the total CDBG funds that have to be spent. Approval is not needed to move these funds. Mandy had sent me some information on it. They're allowed to move 25% or less of the funds allocated in the annual action plan. This is 10% of the unspent funds in the public facilities rehab money over the last 3 years. It's the 18, 19, and 20 monies. It's 10%. It's basically the unspent money that they have in that program.
So all right, thanks, John.
It's unspent CDBG funds from the last 3 years.
And if I got this correct, the CDBG committee and the Common Council only had approval over a certain percentage, and I forgot what that was. That for not capital projects? Am I thinking, guys? They're on CDBG board. What is the money that you, Steve? You're the chair. What's the money that you guys are allocated for? Is it for capital projects or for community projects? Steve Shabbat.
There's a set amount that's for projects, and then there's a set amount for programs.
Programs. Okay, so we have control over the program money. Correct?
I'm not sure what program money you're talking. I'm kind of lost here.
Money, right? The CBG funds that you get. You guys, this had meetings a month, 2 months ago. That money that you allocate is for programs, right? When everybody comes in and says, I need this, I need that. That's for programs, correct? Or is it for projects?
Correct.
All righty. So that's the only money that you guys have control over. The project money, which is set amount of that, the percentage of that, that is what John is saying. And we don't have to have that doesn't need approval. I'm just trying to get it correct. Somebody answer that, please. Thank you.
This is project money, and my understanding is there's two types of amendments: a minor amendment and a substantial amendment. And this would be considered my understanding is a minor amendment, which wouldn't require further approval. But once again, if you have further questions, I think it's.
Jeffrey, what did you want to say?
Tony, to answer your specific question, the community development allocating the money for the programs and the projects.
Okay, they allocate for both. All right.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure.
It's just the mayor's. It's my understanding the mayor's allowed then to move a certain percentage of unspent funds between projects, and that's what this is.
Okay,
Jeffrey,
thank
you
you.
have a question?
No, I was just going to say what Andrea already said.
Okay, thank you. Steve Chavez, you have a question? No? Any other questions?
No.
Okay, the motion is on. Michelle.
It's not a question. It's just a statement that I just want to say, at this point, I'm going to probably vote no tonight because I just really want to see things more on paper. I don't sit on community development, and I want to and just really understand all the funding. So, just not saying that, these projects aren't worthy, but I just want to be better prepared.
Okay,
Thank you.
I understand. Okay, I now call for a vote on the motion. All in favor? Steve, I can't see where, are you voting? I see 3 votes for, Coop, Chabot, and Childress. Is that correct? Opposed?
And again, as Michelle, Alderwoman Hirsch said, I just would like to see this clarified and broken out. Not that these funds, I know it's zero impact. I would just like to see it broken out and be more plain in simple English for the community to understand. But I'm a no vote right now.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. The resolution passes 3-2. Alderman Scott Childress.
2 points. One is point of within a second motion, there should not be any more discussion. Discussion has to happen before the motions, or rather, we always do it backwards here. So we should be doing motions before we have any actual discussion. So once you start to go to the vote, technically you're not supposed to have discussion. But I think there's something important that Michelle and Tony are raising, which is that this is a little confusing because there's 3 parts to this. So what I would appreciate is if, Doug, would you be comfortable getting in touch with Lindsay and asking her to write a clarification so that we have a very clear explanation. So as Tony's pointing out, if there are folks in the public who want to understand, how all this is happening, that would be extremely helpful for us to have as we talk about it further in the future.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. Item number 3, the sanitary sewer from Broadway near 726 Broadway to Henry Street. That is from the new roundabout going on to Henry Street. They consider replacing failing in the subway. 2 alternatives, and I'll let John Schulteis speak with this. Engineering Manager John Schulteis. John, you want to lead us through this, please?
Yes, good evening, Chairman Coop. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Yeah, this is a request for the Common Council to consider a newly considered sewer project that will pick up, if you recall, the DOT as part of the roundabout project did for the city at city expense a number of sewer lines in where the roundabout is. And this project that I'm presenting tonight would begin, as you say, near 726, I believe, Broadway, and continue about 1,300 feet along Broadway to the intersection with Henry Street. This is a sanitary sewer that, based on our research and investigation with the sewer camera, is about an 80-year-old sewer, perhaps even a little bit older. And it's beginning to show increasing signs that it's near the end of its life. So in conjunction with the Broadway streetscape project, I'm asking the Common Council to consider a project to replace that sewer line of about 1,300 feet. And we've received a preliminary cost estimate for this. The construction cost is about $1.7 million. And the design and construction admin at about $200,000. So the estimated cost, if the council directs that option, is about $1.9 million. And that's within my letter, that's identified as alternative 2. Alternative 1 would be do nothing and continue to maintain the sewer as it's presented.
Alderman Davis,
Alderman Davis here, and John.
followed by Alderman Hirsch.
When was this known prior to this Broadway Streets project and this roundabout beginning? We're already in for the sewage or piping around the roundabout. Is that correct?
Yeah, in conjunction with the DOT project, it was identified that with all the roundabout infrastructure going in, it would have to replace the sewer underneath all of that new curbing and pavement. And so the idea here, as part of the Broadway streetscape, which is looking to complete next year, that it makes sense to do a similar approach there.
Follow up. So we already invested in the sewage that's underneath the roundabout. We've already invested in that, allocated funds. This is separate allocation, right?
Yes.
So my question is, why wasn't this discovered when we first allocated? If we knew that the sewage by a roundabout was aging, why didn't we check to see the sewage that's connecting to that going down Broadway?
Well, I think it's a fair question. And what I'll say about that is the city did do some investigation. It's limited what we can discover about the sewers without digging. And so I'll give you an example. When you look at the sewer camera footage, as I've done, my office operates that sewer camera. It gives you a good view of the sewer main itself. However, there's parts of the pipe that we can't see into, namely the laterals serving each business or home, and the connection of the lateral to the main is often difficult to know. So unfortunately, we can have a good bill of health from the camera, and then we see a sinkhole appear above it, and it's very often the case that it's caused by the lateral or the connection of the lateral to the main, which is difficult to discover. And so one thing that happened about 2-3 weeks ago is the contractor for Broadway was digging shallow conduit, only about 18 inches down, to install new conduit for traffic signals. And upon cutting through the pavement, discovered a void big enough to dump, half a dump truck worth of fill into. And unfortunately, that's the kind of thing that the sewer camera alone does not discover. And so it sometimes becomes obvious only upon digging. So that's the situation we're encountering along Broadway.
So this would have could not have been occurred by the state and work that's being up there and cause this to cave in or come apart.
No, I will say this particular length of sewer, when you look at the slope, it's a very flat part of the city, and it does accumulate grease. And the traditional method of maintenance then is to use the jet truck to clear the grease. There's some limitations here that they're reluctant, based on the age of this pipe, to use the full power of the jet truck to clear that grease. And in fact, sometimes that maintenance in and of itself damages the pipe because it's so old and brittle.
So if we do nothing, this is just going to deteriorate. We're just discovering that this year that this is going apart. This hasn't been something known for a while. This is that you are aware of. You're not aware of that. This has been known prior.
Not in terms of the failures that we feel like could threaten the street surface. It has been known that there's a heavy maintenance accumulation in this section.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Michelle Hurst, did you have a question? Followed by Steve Shabbat.
Thank you, Alderman Coop. Basically, Tony, Alderman Davis asked the questions that I was going to ask, but I just find it, this project's been going on long before. The Broadway streetscape has been going on long before I've been here. So I just am a little incredulous that we would have assumed that the sewer that's approximately 80 years old wouldn't have been an issue prior to this failure and the shallow conduit issue. Thank you.
Jeffrey Ventura Morel, please.
Thank you, Doug. Yes, I actually, to piggyback on what Michelle just said, I remember, I think it was about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago, when we were discussing the Broadway project, somebody on the committee or at caucus had asked about the sewers, and we were reassured at the time that everything would be fine. So I just want to say this happens very often. We just discussed it last month with the Planet Wings property. So I think we need to be more careful, especially in this economy, in the future of, they come to us and say, oh, well, this is free money. We're getting grants for this. It's going to cost us nothing. And then a year and a half later, here we are spending $2 million on something that maybe should have been thought about before. So just wanted to point that out.
Steve Shabbat, please. Alderman Shabbat.
Yeah. Question for John, maybe two. Is any portion of this open already?
What do you mean by that exactly? I'm sorry.
I mean, open like, has it been dug around it? Is any of this sewer exposed? You know,
No.
that it would make sense to do it now because it's open? I guess that's where I'm going with this.
Well, no, there was
Really?
one or two temporary repairs made over the top, but we did not repair the pipeline.
Okay, and do you have any idea, you know, what the life of the sewer will be? I don't know if you said that. I know you said it doesn't look good. Can you venture any kind of guess how long, if we decide not to do this, how long before we're looking at doing it again?
Well, I mean, to say the whole 1,300 feet is not going to fail all at once. It's what we're going to see is a pattern of maybe sinkholes spaced along this at random intervals and at random times.
Okay, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I guess you're saying it would be prudent to fix this now rather than later, rather than wait for it to fail. Oh,
I mean, it now makes, if the Common Council directs to do it, now is the time, because the surface, the overlying roadway surface is going to be done next June, July, regardless whether we do the underlying sewer or not. So, do we want to have an increased certainty of the integrity of that? This project would accomplish that.
Kristen
thanks, John.
Wilson, Kristen Wilson, followed by Alderwoman Hirsch. Kristen?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to some of the comments that were made about the sewer through the design process. And I think I might have been called at that caucus meeting that you were speaking about, Jeffrey, and maybe was the staff member who responded that the sewer was okay. And I just wanted to say that, we only know sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And through the entire 4 years of the design process, GPI did consistently ask the city, our consultants did ask about the utilities regularly. We had utility meetings, and the staff at the time said that the sewer was okay. And so I just wanted to say that the consultants certainly did their due diligence, and we did think about this, but we didn't know what we didn't know. And to add to that, John and I have had some discussions about the city's sewer infrastructure. Unfortunately, time where our sewer infrastructure is failing across the city because of its age. We're at the end of its usable life throughout the city. And I'm afraid to say that we will probably have to make a lot of difficult decisions about sewer projects because across the city, it's at the end of its usable life, that 80 to 100-year time frame. And sometimes sometimes it might be better to leave it alone, and sometimes it might be better to fix it. And I just wanted to say that we did do that investigation, and our consultants did, and we weren't trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I certainly wasn't, just to get the Broadway Streetscape project done. And, if we have the information, we will share it with you, but we didn't at that time. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Alderwoman Hirsch.
Thank you, Chairman Coop, and thank you, Kristen. So what do we know from Henry Street down to Grand Street, since that is, on the table as well, fixing this intersection by Planet Wings? What do we know about the sewer lines at this point from Henry to Grand?
We have about the same level of information. I would say a couple things are more favorable, more likely to have some remaining life in that sewer, in that it has a better slope and it doesn't have the issues with the grease accumulation like this section does. It's not known as a high maintenance section by DPW, and we did run the camera through that as well, and did not view any areas of particular concern. It also does not have the same history of the sinkhole that we observed on the section that's the subject of tonight's request.
Thank you. Yes, Randy Scott Childress, please.
Thank you. Building on that, John, so E Squared just opened there, which has, 50 some units of housing. We're also looking at the potential to build another fairly large housing facility basically across Broadway from there. So do those new uses of that sewer, do those affect your estimate of its future life?
To answer the question, I would say no. The adding flow to a sewer does not typically cause it to age faster. The types of failures we see are joint failures and the failure in the lateral to main connection. It's really not a function of the flow rate in most cases.
Okay, and then so in the section that you're asking for us to fund here, is this to the new sewerage that we're putting underneath the future roundabout?
Yes, this project as described here would begin exactly where that project left off.
And then this is kind of a short time frame, isn't it? I mean, are you sure that even if we approve this tonight, that we could get all this work done in timely fashion before the state comes in, or rather the contractors come in to pave Broadway and finish that?
Well, there's no time like the present. A lot of things do have to, go well. We need to, bid it timely, ideally over the winter. So we're opening bids in, say, February and awarding this in March. So the construction could occur relatively early in the spring. That's the objective.
And then my last question is, how much more disruptive of Broadway traffic will this be than finishing the construction? In other words, will this, in a sense, fall in with what we had projected, or is it going to cause greater traffic problems?
It hasn't this point, but Broadway there is wide enough that a detour can be implemented typically by closing off on-street parking. Not a detour, but a lane closure, lane shift.
Chairman, President Schutt.
Andrea's just fine. I've been talking the last couple months about starting a campaign about trying to help our sewer. So I'm not against fixing this. I know this needs to be damaged, but it's just very troubling with Michelle's people question and then Jeffrey saying it was questioned. And I was the one that brought up the questions about a year and a half ago. And the reason why I brought up the questions is because I heard from Ryan Kuhn and Ed Norman at DPW that they had concerns right from their first week when they came here, which was now, I think, about 2 years ago. So, I mean, I know that this has to happen. I'm all for fixing our sewer infrastructure, but it's just very frustrating, again, that this project went forward without listening to some folks who, not me, but the heads of DPW who had warned before before years ago. So it's a little frustrating for some of us who were on the council. to be here in this moment. There's nothing to answer to that. I just wanted to put that on the record in case this happens again. And then also, when we were doing the roundabout, I think that was before when the first sewer money was coming. But then when I came onto the council, we had to allocate more money. Now, I'm assuming because this one's going to have to go a little bit faster, that the timeliness is going to help. But something else that we should consider, it's $1.9 million. It's already a big price ticket. Is this going to be more if, by the time that the bids come in and all of that? So I don't know, John, if you could answer that or give us a little bit more reassurance that 1.9 million is going to be the cap on this?
Well, obviously it has to be bid, and I can't control the bidding environment or the individual bidders, but this estimate was carefully prepared, and it does include a contingency, and it's the best estimate that we have at this point. I can't make a more accurate estimate at this time.
I appreciate knowing that there's a contingency to that, so thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Yes, Tony Davis.
Alderman Tony Davis here. This is a John Tui. John, and I'm assuming it looks like we're going to be bonding this almost $2 million project. And how's that going to affect us? Affect the city? You're muted, bud. You're muted. John,
Sure.
there you go.
All right, I'm here. All right. Speaking so intermittently, I guess. Get used to it. So Tony, we pay for this type of bond over 20 years. So you're looking at debt service of just over $100,000 a year, probably with interest and principal. In terms of the sewer rate, approximately every 50,000 or so is a 1% increase in the sewer rate. So to give you an idea of what that would do with the sewer rate long term, in terms of the debt limit, if the city were inclined, we could look for an exemption for sewer work. There are exemptions to the cities or to the state debt limit for certain sewer work. We could apply for that. At this point, that's not really an issue. We're not. I calculate the debt limit as of the end of 2020. I believe we're at just under 28% of our debt limit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yes, Alderwoman Hirsch.
Thank you, Alderwoman Hirsch here. I just want to go back to the point about being concerned about further issues with the sewer from Henry down. And if, concerns were raised by DPW in the past, are those concerns also going to the mayor, or who are they going to? And, if those concerns are going to be raised, how are we going to know about them in the future? Thank you.
Kristen Wilson.
I just want to reiterate that we, GPI held a number of things that several city staff were involved in, and along with Central Hudson and Verizon and the water department, and included Ed Norman. And we didn't at that time. When we held all those utility meetings, we didn't know about the problems. And I don't even think Ed knew at the time. He was probably relatively new to the city at the time. And, there's a rhythm to the design. And so we have notes from those meetings that we didn't know at the time. It came up later as we were getting ready to construct the project and as problems emerged in the last year. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And I think that normally with any construction project, we would discover these through the work that we do with our consultants and through that due diligence that they do. I think we've learned from this experience, and we'll certainly our consultants will continue to do due diligence. It's a normal part of the construction design experience. And so as we go forward with future projects, I think that the answer is that need to continue to ask. And, we need to make sure that our staff are giving our consultants to the best of their ability. And I think everybody did that to the best of their ability at the time. And then we learned later that the sewers were problematic. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Davis.
Alderman Davis here. So, Kristen, have they been asked to do the due diligence from Henry Street going down to Grant? And so we can make sure they're doing their due diligence and doing whatever they need to do to see if there's a problem in that line from Henry Street to Grand Street. And I don't know what due diligence, what goes into that. And, they put the cameras down there. I don't know what else can be done. And maybe it tests holes and, like this gentleman, like the company did, and they found that this was a big, hole there. I'm not sure if those things can be done. I don't know what falls under the due diligence to find out if there's something with that connection from Henry Street to Grand Street. And if you can do whatever it needs to be done to just see if there is any problems down there before we get more into this project and Broadway Street.
I would let John answer that question. I think he did earlier. He mentioned that they have been doing the camera from Henry to Grand. And then also just should note that the Grand Street sewer was redone. John might know better than I do. When Ralph was here, I think it was done during my first year that I worked for the city in 2016. So I'll let John answer the question about from Henry to Grant.
And John Schulteis?
Yeah, thanks. The condition there, we know that sewer is of a similar age, and probably actually the same age. But as I mentioned before, the maintenance experience has been definitely less intensive on that section, probably due to better slope and the grease doesn't accumulate. We did put the camera through that section as well, and within, I mentioned earlier the limitations of the camera. It will show you if there's a problem in the mainline joints. It can't really reach into the laterals to tell you the condition of the lateral or the connection of the lateral to the main. So those are limitations. Just one further point about the Broadway project is, within the name is the Broadway streetscape. So everything, the majority of what's happening on Broadway, really everything in Broadway is from the surface up. It's the top 12 inches of the roadway and new curbs and new sidewalks. So typically as part of a project like that, you don't do an extensive investigation of every piece of infrastructure that's in there. It's a top 12 inches of the roadway kind of project. However, in this case, the section from 740 to Henry, as we learned more about the ongoing maintenance problems and, with the even shallow digging experience, it revealed itself to be a section that a project should be considered.
Okay, thank you for the discussion. Is there any more discussion, questions? If not, I'll read the committee report from engineering, which says a resolution of the Common Council directing the city engineer to design and construct the Broadway sewer project at an estimated cost of $1,900,000. Does anyone care to make a motion? Alderman Scott Chilvis moves. Is there a second? Steve Shabbat makes a second. Okay, a call for a vote. John, you have a question?
Can you just
John,
reread that? Yeah, Doug, can you just reread that real quick?
The committee report as given to me by the engineering department says, a resolution of the Common Council directing the city engineer to design and construct the Broadway sewer project at an estimated cost of $1,900,000.
Okay. You'll also need, if you intend to bond, you'll also need another committee report.
For bonding.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't have that. Can we vote on this one first? Can I ask for a vote? All in favor? Steve, you're off camera. I can't, okay. All opposed? Because the vote is 4-1 with Alderwoman Hurst voting no. John Tui, I will ask you, how should we proceed? Because you're right, we need a resident. You're muted, John.
All right, Doug. You'll need a committee report or draw up a committee report for the bonding.
Can we prepare one of those now?
Yeah, you should probably do one now. You can't do anything until you get that in place.
Right. Can you write one up?
Sure. How am I getting it to you? I haven't done this remotely yet.
Say again.
John, if you just write it up and say what it's going to say, you can get it to me tomorrow, me and Elisa.
Okay.
So you don't have to send it to us right now. Just say what it's going to say out loud on record, and then the committee can vote on it. Okay?
Sure. It should say to authorize $1.9 million. Hold on 1 second. I lost my resolution here. Bear with me, I'm sorry. I was just a little bit ahead. To authorize, requesting authorization of $1.9 million in bonding for the engineering, design, construction, and construction inspection for the Broadway sanitary sewer project. As described in John Schulteis's letter dated October 2nd, 2020.
Yeah. Andrew, can we vote on that?
Yes, if that's what it's going to say, it's on record now. We could vote on it, or you could vote on it.
So we need a motion to proceed on the bonding resolution. Rennie Scott Chilvis makes a motion. Is there a second?
No, I'm not making a motion yet. I want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. A question. Rennie, question?
I'd be happy to make a motion. Yeah, I just want to express my my angst at having to vote for this. I understand why it's happening. I understand that we need to. I see that it's, in essence, a good economic move, but we are in very difficult economic times, facing financial difficulties. We'll know more, of course, on Friday when we get the budget and see what the mayor's idea for the city's future finances are. And as we go through our process, So while I think, if you look at this in the narrow sense, it's something that makes sense to do. It's a way of saving some money by taking advantage of the stripping away of the upper layers so that we can then concentrate on the sewer. I'm just saying it's distressing that we're having to do this at this time. So I will make a motion for the bond.
Okay. Is there a second for the bond? Tony, is that a second?
I just like to
Tony, are you seconding?
Nope. I would like to make a statement before we go on. Can you hear me? I would like to just say, basically, again, a record, and I'm not, in this economic times as well. And this is a tough decision to make and request the bond for this project. And I do see the need to improve our infrastructures that's 80 to 100 years old. And if we don't do it now, and this is going to cause more damage to Broadway, more sinkholes, and it's going to wind up costing us more money. And I'm hesitant walking that slow walk and when I was voting to do this, but I do see the need that we have to do it now sooner than later, I should say.
Michelle Hirsch.
I just want to, the Alderwoman Hirsch here, I want to say that I am also hesitant. And so until I hear the proposed budget on Friday, I'm inclined to vote no now, because I just feel like this is all getting pushed through to us right at the end of this year. And I'm just really not comfortable voting on all these big items so last minute at the end of this year. Thank you.
Okay, we're not voting yet until we have we need a second on the resolution. Is there a second to the resolution? Alderman Shabbat seconds. All in favor? Three in favor. Opposed? Alderman Davis, do you have a vote?
What are we voting on again? Remind me.
Yeah, Tony, we're voting on the resolution to bond for $1.9 million for the resolution that was.
The previous vote was for what? The previous vote was that I voted yes for was to this year. I'm getting old. What was the previous request or resolution?
The previous vote was to vote for the project to $1.9 million for the, let me read it here. Sorry. It was a 4-to-1 vote, a resolution of the Common Council directing the city engineer to design and construct the Broadway sewer project at an estimated cost of $1,900,000. And that is by bonding. So what we're voting on now is to bond for that expenditures.
So that can't go forward until this bonding is done.
Sorry?
That can't go forward without the bonding.
That would be right.
And so Alderman Davis here, and I am inclined to not vote against this as women that and the wait off until we see what the budget's going to be and before we move forward on this. And so I'm inclined, I'm going to be voting no on this at this time, because I would like to see what the budget's going to show and before we move ahead with this project.
So just so I understand, you vote for the project, but you're voting against the bonding for the project.
Right. So since I can't go back and remove my vote for the project, so I'm going to hold it up on the bond.
Good. So the bonding resolution therefore passes 3-2. Okay, thank you. Move on to the next resolution. Hopefully this one's a little bit easier. We have some tough ones. This is a budget modification from Sue Cahill from planning to transfer $285, not thousands, $285. Yes, Kevin.
Excuse me, Doug, don't mean to interrupt. I realize that we have a rather lengthy calendar and we are finally reaching our 5th item. I'm also aware that we do have North Street, which wasn't necessarily on the calendar to begin with. And because they are here waiting, I was hoping to, whatever extent possible, be able to offer them a courtesy and move them up on this calendar.
So let's do that. Let's move to the agenda item, which was the 11th on the agenda.
Well, Doug, you just spoke about this budget modification. Why don't we just finish that one up before, man, we're going to drop it and go.
I think that's an easy one. Yeah. This is, Kevin, let's just deal with this because I was halfway through it. $285 decrease from furniture and fixtures to books, literature and periodicals and dues. Overage costs associated with 2020 New York Planning Federation dues from Sue Cahill, zero financial impact. $285. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3. I see 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Okay. Yes, Kevin, let's move to North Street.
Which one is this?
This is the item number 11. Kevin, you want to speak to the abandonment of the North Street within the boundaries of land owned by Core Waters LLC? We're speaking of that one, right?
What page of our packet are we on?
Sorry?
What page of the packet are we on if we're skipping to that?
Kevin, you're asking us to move to...
We actually have John Schulteis as well as Scenic Hudson here to speak to the matter.
Yeah, right. So we're talking about the 11th item on the, which is the first one on the second page of the agenda.
And that's called the Scenic.
Yeah, Scenic Hudson. Who would like to speak to this, Kevin or John?
John will.
John, okay. John Schulteis, you want to speak to this?
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Coop. It's John Schulteis. This is a request that's integrally related to the construction of the Hudson River Brickyard Trail, which is ongoing at the moment. And as you know or may know, that did on the lands of the Scenic Hudson, aka Corey Waters. So as part of that, it was determined that a portion of North Street, which is a city street, but has been disused for a period of many years, vacated and quitclaimed to the surrounding property owner, in this case, Corey Waters. And in conjunction with this, Corey Waters is going to grant to the city an easement, a permanent easement for the finished trail to operate within. And so the current request per the committee report is to let us start the process, which the city code describes the process for disposing of a surplus street. And we're asking tonight for the authorization to start that process.
It says estimated financial impact to be determined. Is there any?
I don't believe so. As I mentioned, the city is if the county council approves this course of action, the Common Council will dispose of the city street, and in exchange, Corey Waters grants back to the city an easement. So if those two things are found to be of equal value, it would be of no financial impact.
Okay, Randy Scott Childress.
So in essence, there's no tax because since it's in essence a city street that didn't pay taxes and it's going to a nonprofit that won't pay taxes, we're not losing anything in the deal in terms of taxes.
That's correct.
Okay.
John, you say in the committee report, authorize the procedures necessary to dispose of this. What are the procedures? These type things, or
yeah, there's a series of things that happens. Step one is the city planner makes a finding that it is in fact a surplus street, which we know that it hasn't been maintained as a city street for many years. Step two is that the city engineer, myself, would approve a legal description of the property. And then step three is the assessor would find a value of that property. And then finally it would go to laws and rules, which Kevin could speak a little bit more. There is a public hearing in step in this as well.
So what would happen is laws and rules would schedule a public hearing, and then at the conclusion, it would come back to finance. And finance would ultimately, with all the information, ultimately decide whether the sale or transfer of the property was going to be approved and under what circumstances. And
so
then
this resolution asks for us to transfer it to laws and rules for approval so they can send it back to us. Why do we have to have it to begin with?
Because when it comes to transfer or sale or any property, it goes through finance. And so that's why it goes through us twice. That's why it starts here. The code requires that laws and rules actually schedule the public hearing, but ultimately the disposition as to whether or not it's going to be approved is going to be authorized by you guys to go to the Common Council.
Okay.
And so by the time it comes back, you'll have all of the information and you'll be able to ultimately decide whether we'll approve it to, go forward to the Common Council.
Tony Davis, did you have a comment or question on this?
Tony Davis here. So, I was going to ask a question to City Assessor Dan Baker if he knew if there was the value of that, or you're saying this will be found out later. Is that what corporate counsel stating that will be notified later? Okay. All righty. So as long as we know eventually and before we vote and what the assessed value of this would be, if any, that's okay. Thank you.
If you guys have questions about the code itself, look under Article 13. It starts with 355-56. And when it comes to the work of the assessor, it actually outlines all the various considerations that he has to use to determine what the value is. And it's a lot for him to put together, and but ultimately he'll give you a relatively solid indication of what the value is.
Okay. Michelle Hirsch.
Since Scenic Hudson is here, can we ask questions tonight now? Okay. Thank you. This is Alderwoman Hirsch. Just curious to know what the plans are for the street. Will it be kept as a street, or is it going the pavement be torn up, or is it going what's going to be happening with it?
Hi there.
Heather, I recognize you, please.
Hi, this is Heather Blakey, Senior Park Planner with Scenic Hudson. Currently, the trail, the Hudson River Brickyard Trail, is being constructed of the right-of-way, specifically in the southern segment and a small portion in the northern segment of North Street. And the middle section is constructed outside of the right-of-way. near the shoreline where the trail has been planned, and that is the plan for the trail itself. So the road will not exist as a road in that sense. It's the trail instead, which will give public access through the property and along the larger Empire State Trail beyond the Kingston Green Line Trail.
Thank you.
Tony Davis.
Alderman Tony Davis here. So are you saying that that portion North Street, and that's now going to be a trail, or and where people can just come walk right down that section of North Street right onto your property, onto the trail?
In essence, that's what the trail will provide public access. We'll probably limit that during dawn and dusk and try to manage access that way. Obviously, we don't want to have people there at night.
Now, if I'm correct, the North Street, this section starts right after, and I've been down it right after the, what was that?
The
place
Hudson,
yeah, right where the place right before that you used to have weddings and stuff at. I forgot the name of that building or whatever it was.
Is that St. somebody's hall?
St.
where you're
Mary's Hall.
voting?
St. Mary's Hall.
St. Mary's
That's-
Hall. Yeah.
So is it going to start right after the St. Mary's Hall? Is that what we're talking about, that section of North Street?
So the North Street we're talking about, and John can pipe in, the trail construction is north of there.
Right. If this is John Schulteis. If you're familiar with Hutton Brickyard, so this be the request that we're asking to start today is for a section starting at the northern boundary of the lands of the Hutton Brickyard, and then running north through the Corey Waters lands to the city line, to the boundary with the town of Ulster. It's a distance of about 1 mile along North Street.
Yeah.
President Schott. President Schott.
All right. Yeah, sorry, I reached for the wrong mouse. I just have a question for Scenic Hudson, probably. So you would take all control of the maintenance, is that correct? The city wouldn't be tasked to maintain a trail?
The agreement with current temporary easement agreement allows the city to maintain that as part of the Green Line Trail, Kingston Green Line Trail.
So we continue to maintain it?
If I can,
Thank you.
if I can speak, this is Pamela Richardson, also with Scenic Hudson. And just to clarify, so the trail that we're talking about that's being constructed, a portion of that trail is going to be within the existing right-of-way on North Street, and a portion of it will actually move outside of the existing right-of-way, so that it travels, as Heather said, closer to the shoreline, to up towards the boundary between the city and the town. The portion of North Street that is not going to be part of the trail, that will be ultimately abandoned in its entirety and will no longer be maintained as a road, and it will not be available as a trail in its current form. There may be other uses as part of park development as time goes on, but the trail that we're talking about that is being constructed is route that has been approved by the planning board and that has been carefully designed to take advantage of the existing features on the property and to protect other features that are environmentally sensitive.
John Schulteis.
Going to offer, Chairman, I do have a graphic on my screen. If it's helpful, I could share my screen to give the trail alignment versus the current North Street alignment.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I think I just need to be made a presenter.
Yeah, can you give me a second? Yeah, give me a second and I'll get there. All right, you're good, John.
Okay, you should see my screen in just a moment. Okay, if you can see this document, and hopefully my mouse here, this is a survey of approximately 500 acres of land owned by Corey Waters. And in this orientation, north is to the right. So if you're able to see my mouse here near the left side of the screen at the southern end, this is the current alignment of North Street, which I will trace here going north. And then this is also for this portion so far that I've traced, this will continue to be the alignment of the trail. At this point, North Street continues more directly north along this line that I'm tracing here. However, going back to that point, at this point, the Brickyard Trail turns right towards the river here, and for this portion, it's relatively close to the river, and you see that the yellow hatching indicates where Corey Waters will be granting to the city an easement for that new trail alignment that's different from North Street. And then as we continue north here, we're nearing the city limits and the boundary with the town of Ulster. And then here, the trail returns to the former North Street alignment. And once it crosses into the town of Ulster, this was the former John Street alignment or right of way, which the town of Ulster has already vacated. And so you can see, and that distance that I just traced is about 1 mile. And so the request from Corey Waters is to vacate this limits here as a city street, will no longer be a city street. And in exchange, they're going to grant back to the city an easement over the trail, the new trail alignment, which is partly along the same as North Street and partly different from.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Sure, and I'll just reiterate that the shoreline alignment just has been approved by the planning board, the city, and the town as well, and provides the public access along the river. So it's a better experience rather than staying in the right of way, and also avoids two portions of North Street that are already compromised. It avoids those sections, and the trail will be built at a more reasonable cost rather than to repair those sections.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other comments, John, Heather, or questions from the committee? Or in which case I will read the committee report from engineering. Engineers are requesting to authorize the procedures necessary to dispose of a portion of North Street up to a time a public hearing takes place pursuant to section 355-62 of the city code. Rennie Scott Childress, the second. Steve Shabbat. All in favor? Coop, Shabbat, Childress, Tony Davis. Michelle, I can't see. Are you voting for? I see 4 votes in favor.
I'm actually not sure what we're doing right now. I'm sorry. I thought we were referring it to laws and rules, so it just makes it sound like we're.
Okay. Michelle, are you voting for or?
So I'm going to vote against because I'm not really sure. Sorry.
Okay, so there's 4 votes opposed, 4-1. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Heather, for coming tonight, participate, and answer our questions. John,
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Kevin, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
4-1, okay? We can move on to the next item, which is item 5, brought to you by the Alderman of the 2nd Ward, myself, for parking on the east side of Pearl Street between Green Street and Wall Street. This is on the boundary of the former St. Joseph's School, which is now closed. That's going to turn into a religious education center for St. Joseph's Church. But those that side of the street was formerly reserved for school buses, and with the schools closed, there's no school buses coming there. So I'm proposing and asking that we meter those, the east side of Pearl Street between Wall and Green Street. We've looked at this with DPW and also with Dan Quiswell, who works for John Toohey in parking. Everyone seems to be on board of this. We will add about, I believe it's about 5 additional parking spaces on the east side. Former slots for school buses, which are no longer required. Yes, Rennie? Rennie, you have a question?
I'm sorry, finding my buttons. So by adding these spots, are these contiguous to other metered blocks?
Yes.
Or are these separate?
No, they are contiguous with other parking spots up along Wall Street. Pearl Street. As you go up Pearl Street, that street is metered.
And then Wall Street is also on both, in both to the left and the right.
Religious education for St. Joseph's. So on the two streets bordering the former St. Joseph's schools would then be metered.
And then, so with that idea, is there a real sense that these need to have some kind of turnover? Because that's our main point of having metered spaces in Uptown and down in the Rondout, so that we ensure that there's a regular turnover of parking, or is the aim here mostly revenue?
I would say the purpose is to increase revenue to the city.
In that case, is there an estimate of what kind of revenue we're talking about? We're talking about 4 or 5 metered spaces, right?
I would defer to John on a question of that nature. I don't know what the dollar value per meter is.
Yeah, I haven't done a finally a request that the property, the adjacent property owner there had actually reached out to Doug Coop. So this wasn't a city initiative. This was actually an initiative from the public looking to change that space. The spaces there, presumably, as Doug mentioned, for turnover. With our parking meter rates of $1 an hour, you have a maximum really of $9 a day per meter, $45 a day. But right now we're not seeing that. So, realistically, Even at 50% occupancy, you're looking at, several $100s a month. It's not a huge number, but I think we have to look at this one more from a, turnover standpoint and what the public's looking for rather than a revenue generator. It's rather insignificant from that standpoint.
And then just to be clear, this was no parking before, right? So it's not like we're taking parking spaces away or turning free spaces into metered spaces, right?
These were spaces that previously were no parking spaces because they were reserved for school buses coming up to and from the school. The school is no longer, so the spaces are now available for parking. People park there all the time now. So the resolution is that parking meters be installed on the east side of Pearl Street to be opposite 75 Pearl Street. That is, there's a loading zone which will provide access into the religious education center, children coming in and out, drop-off zone. So it's not a continuous strip of metered parking. There's a block there, or a section of what we're calling a loading zone. And this has been worked out with Dan Quisnell, who administers the parking configurations, and also DPW. DPW has already mapped out the spaces. Yes, Michelle?
What is,
Michelle?
yes, Alderwoman Hirsch, what is the cost for the meters and installation?
The meters themselves we have, so there won't be a cost for the meters, and the installation will be done by Public Works.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's just time.
I can entertain a motion. Michelle Hirsch, and second by Steve Chavez. All in favor? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Okay, the vote is 4-1 with Randy Scott Childress opposed. Okay, thank you. Moving on, the next item, number 6 on the agenda, is a resolution to authorize construction and bonding for the Broadway and Grand Street intersection improvement project. This has pieces to it. Kristen, you want to speak to this, please?
Sure. So I think I laid it out pretty well in my communication.
You did, but I think it'd be good if you reviewed it now.
Sure. I'm going to pull up my communications so I can share straight from that. Essentially, we are asking for bonding authorization to construct and get bonding for the Broadway Grand Intersections Improvements Project. The purpose of this project is to realign the intersection to improve safety and reduce crashes that are caused by the misaligned intersection that exists there now. We identified this as an issue early on in the Broadway streetscape design. Our GPI, our consultants, asked us if we could potentially acquire the property to realign the intersection because it would improve the level of service as well as the safety of the intersection. And then later, as you all know, the city acquired the Planet Rings property. We acquired funding with help from Kevin Cahill through the New York State DOT multimodal program in the amount of $750,000 for the project. 75,000 of that was used for design, and the remaining is 675 is available for construction. The project has a estimated cost of 1.1 million for both construction and construction inspection. I should note that that cost actually includes one of the signalization traffic lights that we originally were going to include in the Broadway streetscape project. We took it out of the Broadway streetscape project because we didn't want to install the signalization and then have to go back later and uninstall it or move it at extra cost to the city. And so that cost was estimated at $223,000, as well as some concrete sidewalk and ADA ramps estimated at $42,000. And so the amount that we have as a gap for the project is $425,000. That's the amount we're requesting in bonding for the project. And I'm happy to share about the design or ask questions about the design. We held a public meeting earlier this year. It was one of the first virtual public meetings that we've done for a design project. We utilized Engage Kingston to get feedback from the public. And with that feedback, we have made some adjustments to the design. So we're still working that out, but I'm share my screen to show you the most updated version of the design. And I'm happy to entertain questions.
Randy?
Kristen, I don't quite understand with the traffic light there. And I thought you said that we already have it, and if we do, why are we paying the money for it?
No, we don't have it. We originally it was going to be a streetscape project.
This particular light would have been included in that project.
Yes, okay. But we did not include. So essentially, the Broadway streetscape project came in at a slightly lower price because we did not include it in that initial project. Okay. We put it in this project because we didn't want to put it in and then move it, which it wouldn't have made sense to do that. So that's why it's included in this project cost.
And then what's this cost? There's 100-something thousand for inspection.
Yeah, that is a cost that's part of all construction projects. So for right now we have GPI doing full-time construction inspection on the Broadway streetscape project, and that's part of the construction costs. It's almost,
so this would be an ongoing involvement. It wouldn't be like a signing off at the end of the project.
No, it would be while the project is happening. The engineer construction inspectors would be out there making sure that the contractors are doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, thank you.
Tony Davis, followed by President Schott.
Tony Davis here. So when it's all was said and done, this plan was to reconfigure this street and remove and take down Planet Wings, right? That was what it was said and done. We are now at this cost right now dollars to remove a building and change the signage. And now you're stating that this is going to be $1.1 million to remove a building. When this was first proposed and I voted for it, it was that we were just going to remove this. We had to purchase the building and then we were going to remove this building and make signage. And as it seems as this has been going on, more costs are thrown in. 50,000 from CDBG to remove asbestos. Now it's going to be, I lost the communication you sent. Now we're going to do construction of this. I don't know what we're constructing. Aren't we just removing this building?
If I'm able to share the building, share my screen, I'm happy to share a picture of the design.
I lost it and it's not on the Kingston the city website anymore.
I'm talking about documenting the road, right?
And since we don't receive paper packets anymore, I don't have the hard copy.
I just made Christina present so she could share.
Can you see now?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm sharing this first. This is one of the design. This is a design that we were working with. It's really a construction document to show you this so that you can see where the building currently exists.
Where's it at?
Right here. Can you see my cursor moving? I don't know how to make it. Here, let's see. Maybe I can do a hand.
I did see it. Yeah.
Hand is better. So this is where the Planet Wings building currently exists.
Yep.
And so I think that the property goes to about here. So we acquired the property so that we're able to realign the intersection through the plant, essentially kind of goes through part of the building. So this is a picture of one of the construction documents. I'll show you something that's a little easier to look at, but I just wanted you to see that so that you could see where the building was. So if I'm using this one, you can see the building is right about here in this intersection. So the intersection, currently is, if you can just imagine it, it's aligned with Grand Street. So it goes this way right now. And so what we're doing is squaring off the intersection and creating two green spaces. The green spaces with this construction project are just going to be lawn. I think that our ideas and goals for that area to be landscaped or potentially turned into a monument for the post office or a public square, or some sort of green space. So that's really a future design project. But for right now, the focus is getting the intersection realigned. And so the cost, just to reiterate, there was the initial cost to buy the property. There was the cost to tear down the building. And then we discovered that there was asbestos in the building. So there was the cost to remove the asbestos. And then separately from those costs, there is the $1.1 million to reconstruct the intersection as shown in this design here. And add the signalization to the intersection.
Well, if I'm correct, this is a follow-up. So that's $1 million just to do the street, reconfigure the street, along with the $500,000 that is into just buying the building, removing asbestos, and all the other small costs that went with the building.
But remember, there's $750,000 from the state that Kevin Cahill is supplying.
Right. So the cost to the city, I don't remember the exact cost for buying the building. I think it was in the $400,000.
The building was like $450,000, if I remember right, the figures I received. And then you got the other costs with it. Plus you got now, like I said, then you had another $50,000 that came from the CB asbestos.
Okay, so the grant funding for the project would then be about $800,000 if you include the CDBG, and the city contribution is about $925,000.
So you have $445,000 to purchase, $10,000 realtor commission, another $2,000 title costs, another $5,000 hazardous material survey, $115 other costs. That came to about, and then $120. So that's about 462 with 112,000.8 unspent balance, 475,000. The last month, We came back for another 50,000 from CBG to help remove the asbestos. So that's over $500,000 right there. So $500,000 plus the 1.1 million, it's going to give you what? Almost $2 million. And then you're saying minus 750 that's coming from what Kevin Cahill's office is able to attain.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't follow you there, Tony. I think it's 1.1 plus 500,000, so that'd be 1.6.
1.6, okay. And then you're saying that you got funding from Kevin Cahill's office
For 750.
All right, okay.
Plus the 50,000 from CDBG, so that would be $800,000 in grant funds. It's about half.
Other questions? President Schott.
I do. Thank you. Yeah, and then the other expense down the road is going to be what you're doing with the open space. Because at the last community development meeting, the mayor came and asked for $100,000 to turn that into a little park or a parklet. So that would be another 100,000, Tony, just so you, and potentially $100,000. Aside of that, in terms of the what is it called? I had to quote it down. Hold on, sorry. The inspection fees, Kristen, that you said come with every construction project. Just to compare, do you know what the fee was for the Broadway project, the Broadway streetscape, the inspection fee?
I don't remember the number right off the top of my head. Maybe John Schulteis knows if he's still here. I think it was in $1 million. I can look it up.
That's correct. It is. It's yes.
All right, thank you.
I'm still showing my screen there.
So I don't know anybody else had their hand up at. So what other potential costs are we seeing looking at for this particular project?
Well, there would be, once this is constructed, there would be landscape. There would be a new project, which is the green space, and there would be landscape design as well as landscape construction. And that, I don't know that that's necessarily immediate. We could seek grant funding for, potentially there would be organizations locally that would be interested in funding that. I don't think that that's a requirement that the city bond for the landscape. It could just be a green lawn until we're ready to move forward. I think that the urgency of the project now and why we're coming to you now, and we figured we'd just come to you with both Broadway sewer and this in the same meeting, just to be upfront about it all, is that the Broadway streetscape is essentially going to end here. The bike lane will just end, and kind of bicycles will have to figure out what they're going to do from there. And it's also, the purpose of the project and the reason that we started this project and are doing this project is to prevent crashes and near misses at the site. And I will share, you can also go look at engagekingston.com. You can look at the Broadway streetscape projects and see the comments that are there. There are a lot of stories about near misses and problems at this intersection. And the goal of this project is to increase safety and to reduce the likelihood that someone gets killed or seriously injured at this intersection. And I think all of you have probably had that experience of driving out from the YMCA, trying to make a left onto Broadway and, almost getting hit by somebody who's coming off of Grand. So I mean, I've certainly had that experience almost every time I go through that intersection that way. So I think that that's, the consideration. And doing it now will be, if we do it next year along with the Broadway streetscape project, we'll have a, fully complete street from St. James to Grand.
This is Randy. I'll just note that the Common Council almost lost 2 of its members about 1.5 years ago, crossing through here while we were walking home after a Common Council meeting. So we can attest to the dangerousness for pedestrians as well as cars.
And if you look at the comments, and I will share all of the comments, I wasn't able to get them all together for tonight, but I will share them within the next day or so with all of our city responses. And we made some changes to the design based on the comments that we received. But a lot of them talk about the lack of safety at this intersection.
Okay, Steve Chabot, followed by President Schott.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, I just want to throw in my little bit about safety here. I've had a lot of close calls there. I've seen a lot of close calls there. Haven't been involved in one, or but they're very frequent, and they're always close. The green area, my understanding, it's kind of at this point a wish list. So, it can be as minimal as possible. I don't think there's any grand design, and certainly nothing that has to be done. Not like an intersection where things have to be done according to code and, be put in a certain sequence. The green space can be done, at a leisurely pace or not at all. As I think Kristen said, it could just be a lawn. And I think that would certainly look better than what's there now. It's really, it's an eyesore, that whole intersection, combined with, safety issues there. I would really like to see this, come to fruition. We supported the idea of it. I'd like to see it through.
Next.
Thank you. Just a simple question. Sorry, I'm dropping things. Was there any thought on just putting a left? I mean, was there, because I drive there every day. You all know I live 2 blocks away, so I'm there often, and I'm not in near accidents, but I see the confusion, and I think just because I'm such, I am there every day, I'm more careful. So of course, don't drive it every day. They're less careful. So I understand the danger of it, but was that considered?
I don't understand. Your question is, Andrea, putting a left where?
Keeping it the way it is and just putting a left turn signal. Because right now, when you turn, I guess I always turn right leaving there. But is there an opportunity when you're on Grand Street to turn? Is there a left hand?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit. I didn't fully get the question.
Doug Siemens, she's asking, was there a study done in regard to the way it's right now, the road and the building there, of just putting a left-hand signal for people coming from the Y side, making a left-hand signal to go up Broadway, or as the opposite on Grand Street and having a left-hand arrow for people who want to go down Broadway from there? Was that looked at, studied, or that's what I believe her question was?
I think John wants to answer that.
John?
If I understand this is John Schulteis. If I understand the question, it would be just, because it's an offset intersection in the current configuration. Is your question, could the northbound and southbound phases operate separately so that there's not the overlap of northbound and southbound movements? And if that's the question, the answer is yes, it could. Doing so would lower the level of service of this intersection and create for all users. And that's something that we would seek to avoid.
How would it create delay?
Well, because currently your northbound and southbound shares a single green phase for movements. And if you separate those, then the cycle time for through movements on Broadway, the cycle time for everyone increases. And so you have the potential to induce delay along Broadway, especially at peak hours.
And one of the goals of the signalization project across all of Broadway, which was and still is, to organize the signals such that when you're driving from one side of Broadway to the other, you can, if you're driving at a 25 miles, 30 miles an hour, you get all the green lights and it keeps traffic moving. So, right now we have a lot of that stop and go. And one of the grants that we got was the NYSERDA grant for the Broadway Streetscape project. The purpose of that grant was to reduce idling and carbon emissions through the signalization project. So there's both the benefits of improving the level of service at all of the intersections and moving the traffic through the streetscape efficiently. And then, the side benefit of that is reducing carbon emissions.
Okay, we're getting stacked up here with people. I hope I got this right. Alderwoman Hirsch, followed by Rennie Scott Childress, and I think that's it. Michelle?
This is Alderwoman Hirsch. I was actually just stretching, but sorry.
Okay. All right, I'll move on to Rennie.
Well, two kind of different questions here. One is, so John Schultes, if I hear you correctly, and I think Kristen, you were alluding to this too, the dilemma is that without we fix this intersection, in a sense, we put a huge amount of money into Broadway just to have all that money kind of go to waste because you're creating a bottleneck right here, a kind of dangerous spot. And especially if you put in the left turn signals, that would create even more of a bottleneck at the end of all this new correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can help answer that, and Kristen may have some things to add. But yeah, this dovetails exactly. I mean, you can do the Broadway Streetscape project without this, and it just terminates here at Dedrick Street. By taking it this extra 150 feet, you'd get more utility out of the entire project and more safety for all users. So, one of the other features of this is it does extend the cycle track to a more logical point here where cyclists can enter and leave the cycle track. And it also makes significant improvements along Prince Street, which is the route of the Empire State Trail. So there's a lot tied up in this one intersection for motorist safety, for pedestrian safety, for bicycle safety. This is kind of like a cherry on top for Broadway, but it's more than that. It's a safety upgrade for all users on its own. And I'm sure Kristen can add to what I've said as well.
Well, I was also just going to mention that by just changing the signalization and putting in the left turn signal, you're not necessarily making the improvements for bicyclist and pedestrian safety. And it does that. And that is a major concern of a lot of people who communicated on Engage Kingston, were around pedestrian and bicycle experiences in this intersection. I think we think of the near misses as just the cars, but it's not just cars. Well, I mean, Rennie brought up that with other aldermen here, you almost got hit. So there's really a lot of different safety goals that we're addressing with the improvement.
Tony Davis.
Alderman Tony Davis here. This one question in regard to his design I see here at the Grand Street, and is traffic or vehicles going to be able to make a left or a left as well, or onto what is this? I forgot this little section, Prince Street.
Yes. If they're driving on Broadway towards City Hall?
No, but they're on Grand Street in there. So it looks like Grand Street there, right? They can make a left to get to Broadway.
Yep.
Yeah. Will they be able to make they can make a right to go to Broadway? Will they be able to make the left to go towards City Hall?
Yes.
So is there going to be traffic there, or that section right there, they're going to have to just watch to see if they can get across?
They'll have to, they'll have to look to the left, and there aren't very many cars coming. There's not as much traffic on Prince, obviously, as there is on Broadway. However, the reason Prince has more traffic than Grand Street. So that's why we have aligned this with Prince Street as opposed to aligning with Grand. There's more traffic. And it's also the Empire State Trail route is on Prince Street.
Okay, thank you.
Rennie.
It's also occurring to me that, so we just, RUPCO just opened East Square, which is adding 150 people about a block away. We're also looking at another housing development that would add a similar number, or even higher number of units and people about a block away, also on this side of on the other side of Broadway. So it just seems like if we're adding the potential for a larger number of pedestrians walking in this neighborhood, it does seem like this is a good idea to err on the side of safety.
One thing I do want to mention, Sean Coster, who I think you all know works in engineering, he found an old map of this area, and it was actually called Public Square in the map, which I thought was interesting. So this is, I think an opportunity. I mean, right now it's just aligning the intersection, but, ultimately we'll have this space that we can work with and create it sort of as a center of our community. It's close to the YMCA and City Hall. It's really, I think, really at the center of Kingston.
Okay, with that, I would like to read the committee report. There's actually two, one for the project, and then there'll be one for bonding, so we have to vote on both of them separately. The project reads, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, approving the Broadway and Grand Intersection Improvement Project, appropriating funds for the project and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary agreement, certification, or reimbursement requests for state aid with the New York State Department of Transportation. This is $425,000. So I entertain a motion. Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, and motion, is there a second? Do I see a second? Steve Chabot. Okay, call for a vote. All in favor? I see 1, 2, 3. All opposed? Alderman Davis and Alderwoman Michelle Hurst. So the vote is 3-2 in favor. Dissenting, no votes were Tony Davis and Michelle Hurst. Okay, thank you to Kristen and John Schultheis for participating in this discussion. Okay, can we move on, please?
Doug, there
Yes.
should be two committee reports.
Sorry. Oh, wait a minute. There's one more. There's the bonding resolution. Thank you.
Sure.
The bonding resolution to supporting the project that we just passed 3-2. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the mayor to execute any and all related documents and expend funds in the first instance for the municipal multimodal project of PIN 8MA428-30 grant awarded in 2019 from the New York State Department of Transportation for the reconfiguration, rehabilitation of the intersection of Broadway, Grand Street, and Pine Grove. I'm sorry. That's not the one I should have read. I was reading. I should read the resolution. Let me start again, okay? My apologies. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the adoption of a bond ordinance for the sum of $425,000 for the Broadway and Grand Street intersection improvement project construction and construction inspection cost. Estimated financial impact, $425,000. This is the bond ordinance resolution. Is there a motion? Rennie Scott Childress, and second by Steve Chabot. All in favor? I see 3 votes. All opposed? The vote passes 3-2. The negative votes, no votes, were cast by Alderwoman Hirsch and Alderman Tony Davis. So the bond resolution passes 3-2. Okay, let's move on. The next item on the agenda, the 7th item, is the sales tax agreement. John, do you want to walk us through this, please? John Toohey?
Hi, Doug. Sure. So you have a copy of the proposed sales tax agreement. It is essentially a flat 11.5%, which is what the city received prior to the last sales tax agreement. There is a clause for a reopener upon sales tax reaching a certain level. That is in clause number 4. Other than that, it's a standard agreement that looks like the agreements of prior years. And just to reiterate, so for everyone's edification, prior to the last sales tax agreement, the county would receive 85.5% of all sales tax collections. The city would receive 11.5%, and the towns would split 3%.
But there's a cap on there of $128,561,331. Has that cap changed from the prior agreement?
The prior agreement, there was no, well, go back two agreements, it was just a straight 85.5, 11.5, and 3. The last agreement had a myriad of different clauses for caps and give backs. And then there were some things that weren't even really sales tax related in that agreement. This item 4 is a new item to actually where a new highways. Essentially, what it does is it's a reopener. So if sales tax reaches a certain level, which was the 2020 budget for the county, there would be a reopener for the city and the county to have discussions.
It's a reopener, but only for a discussion. There's no concrete action as to what happens at that point.
That's correct.
Okay. Is the thought that above that high water mark that the allocation to the towns would increase, or what is the expectation if we exceed the high water mark?
It simply reads to consider increasing the allocation of the excess to the towns.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so are we voting on this at the moment? What are we doing with this now?
It's been presented for your approval and adoption.
Okay, because I don't have a committee. I do not have a committee report on this. Should I? Should we?
Yeah, I think you could have a committee report just to authorize the mayor to adopt the sales tax agreement for the period March 2021 through February 20th, 2026.
So, Kevin, we can proceed and vote on what John just said.
So in essence, you're authorizing the mayor to execute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Is Michelle Hirsch?
Yes, Alderwoman Hirsch. So my question is regarding this, why, so if it's dated effective March 1st, 2021, do we have to compare to the new budget being announced on Friday?
So basically the statute allows for different opt-out provisions. And this is the timing that it's been done in the various years. So basically, whatever budget discussions you have are going to be irrelevant and aren't going to be affected by this sales tax agreement. And it has never been a factor relative to the execution of the sales tax agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to allow the mayor to proceed in the terms of which Kevin just described? Motion by Alderman Steve Shabbat. Had a motion, Steve, or what? And I see various motions over your hand.
Yeah, well, I will make a motion, but I just want to make a comment before I do that. I mean, okay. I think the fact that this is the same as we've had, I think that's a real positive. I wouldn't have expected us to do better than this. I'm really pleased that it's the same as it was. Given the state of things, we could have had another fight on our hands like we did a few years ago. I really think this is good, and I will make the motion.
Have you just made a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Right.
Randy, you have seconded.
I'll second it, but I would also just like to say that the other advantage here is this doesn't have the riders that the previous one had. So this is a clean one as opposed to the one we had last time. So second.
Okay. All those in favor? I see 5-0, correct? Okay, move on. Next item is the Police Benevolent Association contract budgetary transfer. John, you want to walk through this for us, please?
Sure, Doug. The mayor was authorized the award. We had to come back and calculate the exact retro pay due to the union and non-aligned officers. This covers the award period from 2017 to 2019. It also includes the impact the award would have on the period from 1/1/20 through the date of the retro pay. And with the portion 2017 through 2019 piece coming from fund balances planned, with the 2020 piece through the date of the retro pay coming from contingency. And keep in mind that I mentioned in my letter, there will be, because the salary schedules are adjusted based on the award, the salary schedules from the date of the retro in July through the end of the year are going to be a little bit higher. So we should expect that the police department will need withdrawal from contingency later in the year to cover that. And that would be to the tune of approximately $250,000.
So the impact on the fund balance for the prior years, 2017 through 2019, is $971,693. First of all, that's correct, right?
Yes.
Is that number, is that what was expected? Is it a surprise? Is it higher, lower? Then how does it fall to what our expectations were?
It was in line with what we expected.
And the current year portion comes out of the 2020 contingency, $272,997. Does that take us through the entire year?
No, that's only through the date of the retro. So
that's what?
It was July. It was let me just pull my calendar here. Sorry. It was I believe it was July 17th. I'd have to pull my exact calendar.
So 7 months at most.
It was, it wasn't quite 7 months, 6.5 months.
So how much more are we going to expect to have to go to to the contingency on this?
The total for the year for 2020 will be in the neighborhood of $500,000. It just depends on what actual overtime they work. What extra comp time to get paid out for. So I mean, there's, we know what the regular pay piece will be, but we don't know what hours they're going to work, the additional hours. We estimated 2020 to be $500,000. Just remember, each year the city have agreed to this. Yes, we have.
We have a signed agreement.
Yes.
So there's really no option on this.
This is really just moving the money at this point.
Okay. Discussion? The committee report reads, request budgetary transfer to fund the retroactive pay portion of the 2017-2019 KPBA award. The retroactive pay pertaining to prior years will be funded through fund balance. That's $971,693, with the current year portion funded via 2020 contingency, which through that date in March was $272,997. Is there a motion? Randy Scott Childress.
Can we have a question on it?
Certainly, David. Tony Davis.
Tony Davis here. John, I might have just blanked out. How's this going to affect our fund balance afterwards?
Well, first off, it's just one item of many items that go through, the city's finances for the year. On a standalone basis, Tony, it would reduce the fund balance by the 971,693, and it's going to be a withdrawal from the contingency. So on a standalone basis, this by itself, it reduces our fund balance by 971.
And so what's that bring it down to? Do you know?
Well, we measure our fund balance. I will pull that number up right now. The fund balance at December 31st, 2019, our unassigned fund balance was $7,388,676.
And now it's going to take it down 971,000.
But you got to put this in context of everything else that's going on, right? So, it's not the only thing that's happening this year. So you have that happening. You have COVID. When I get into the COVID financial update, I'll tell you that, things have improved a bit financially. Spending is down significantly. So, we'll measure fund balance again at the end of 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Rennie, you made a motion. Do you have a comment?
I need to take it back. I think we have a question that requires a meeting with the attorney.
Who has a question that requires? Explain. I don't.
I'm not sure I should explain without we ask the attorney.
All right, make a motion. We can enter attorney-client session.
I make a motion that we enter into attorney-client session.
I second it.
Who seconded it?
I second it.
Tony did.
I second it.
Oh, Tony did. Okay, thank you, Tony. Okay. Okay, all in favor? None opposed. Okay, so we'll go into attorney-client session.
How we do that?
How do we?
Cell number. Check your cell phone. I just texted you the numbers, but turn off your camera and your microphone.
So we're going to do this on phone? Somebody want to give me the phone number?
Yes, I sent a text message.
I don't have a phone here. I need the phone number.
Well, we can't give you that to you because then somebody else can.
I can't give it to you on the screen. So give me a second, please.
Okay. Call me would you call me at 339-9945?
Doug, I'm gonna send you an email.
Okay.
Doug, you need to mute yourself and turn off your camera.
Doug, you have to mute yourself and turn off your camera. Doug, you have to mute yourself and turn off your camera.
Okay.
Hey, Doug, can you hear us?
Please read.
Doug?
I'm trying to turn off the camera.
If you are the host,
All right, look at the bottom.
otherwise then you will be.
Look at the microphone, and right next to it is the camera. So you're going to turn both of those off by just pressing them. Mute yourself during meetings. Do you see the mute button? you see the mute button?
No.
How do
I
you
see-
normally mute yourself?
I seem to have lost the whole meeting.
Otherwise, please wait, and you will be joined into the conference.
Tony, you're not muted, just so you know. So in case. So Doug, there are no four at the bottom of this screen, 4 circles.
Andrea, I hear you, but I don't. All I see is have a great meeting.
All right, let me see if
Doug, you have to go down to the very bottom and click orange icon that's got a little like asterisk on it. I think you've gotten onto your email screen.
Doug, I could do. Rennie, I could take it from here. Like I could mute him here. I'm gonna mute you, Doug, and I'm gonna turn off your camera. Okay, but you have the information for the conference call. Doug? Doug, do you have the email that I just sent you with the number?
Which email did you send it to?
Your city email.
Okay.
You got it? So
Yes,
I
I
can
have
turn
it.
you off here. You're good.
I have it.
All right, so I'm going to mute you and turn off your camera and just call that number that I sent to you. And then there's the access code right underneath it. You good?
All right. Sorry, Kevin, for the confusion. I didn't realize you'd gone away. All right. All right. Doug, are you back?
No, I can hear you, but I don't see. You hear me?
Yeah. And I see you.
Yes, we see you and we hear you.
But I can't. Oh, wait a minute.
This is crazy.
Okay.
This
You
is
probably
actually-
pressed the button.
All right.
Now you know how to turn off your camera.
Okay. So, moving on, I can read, I'll reread the committee report. All right? Request budgetary transfer to fund the retroactive pay portion of the 2017-2019 KBBA award. The retroactive pay pertaining to the prior years were funded through fund balance, with the current year portion funded by a 2020 contingency. Randy, you had already made the motion on this, right? Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? Okay. Michelle Hirsch. Okay. Michelle Hirsch has made the second, Steve. So all in favor? All 1, 2, 3, 5, 0. Okay, that's passed. Moving on. From the controller. Controller wishes to balance the accounts. Balance accounts, no budgetary transfer. That's balance accounts involving $2,500. Do we need to read through all this? Request mid-year 2020 budgetary transfer to balance accounts. There is no budgetary impact resulting from this transfer. The transfer is $2,500 for the controller to balance accounts. A motion, Steve Chabot. Second, Michelle Hirsch. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 0. That passes. Okay. Next item, library tax re-levy. John, you want to go over this? About a zillion transfers here that add up to something like somewhere in the neighborhood of $18,950 re-levy.
Sure, Doug.
Explain it to us.
Yeah, what is a re-levy? We didn't levy enough tax on the 2020 bills. It's a re-levy on the 2021 bills for the library. The attachment just shows, lists all the parcels and the amounts. It's less than $1 per 100,000 for a homestead property. We've spoken with the county about it. We've spoken with the library about it. This is the mechanism to do that. I know it's a lot of attachments, but there really isn't a lot to it. But that is information we need to give to the county so they have it.
So the next for the remainder of the library district's 2020 tax levy on the 2021 general tax bill in accordance with Title III, Section 551-A of New York State Real Property Tax Law. List of Kingston all nickel and dime stuff, $1 here, 35 cents here. It goes on for pages and pages. Is there a motion? Ready? Scott Childers makes the motion. Is there a second? Michelle Hirsch, thank you. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Motion passes. Next item, which is new business. We're going back to the issue of revising tow truck fees. This was passed on to the owner of one of the towing truck companies, whose name escapes me for the moment. And he has not responded at all, so I would suggest we just pass on this for the moment. Okay. That closes the agenda items. We're now up to the controllers. Yes, ready.
Just to clarify, as I understand Robert's Rules of Order, if there is something that's old business that hasn't been acted on for 2 meetings in a row, it goes off the agenda. So
this is 2 meetings in a row.
Yeah. So I'm just saying.
Right. Okay.
On the next agenda, unless somebody reintroduces it.
It's off. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, moving to John Toohey's monthly controller. He emailed us this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. In a wacky world of COVID finances, I got to tell you, I had some laughs with some people on this one. You have the sales tax. I passed out all the information. Did anyone have a chance to look at the sales tax numbers?
Yep.
Okay. We were tracking prior to our August collections. We were tracking at 7.73% under the prior year. That had been consistent for a number of collections. We had an unexpected large distribution for August. August was actually almost 22% over 2019 levels. That's a really good problem to have. It actually brings our year-to-date, our cumulative year-over-year to a variance of just under 3%. So I don't have a great explanation for that variance for August. I did have conversations with people who have more information than we have, and the best I can tell you, it was an adjustment, and we don't have anything more on that. But at this point, we're 3% down year-over-year. Certainly, with the overall projections, we can start improving our scenarios a little bit more. I'm still trying to be conservative. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. So, if you look at the sales tax sheet, I give a range of what sales tax looks like if it's 10% down over the prior year for the rest of the collections and 24% down for the rest of the year on the collections. And then I do a weighted average of the two. Now, that itself is probably conservative. We don't know if we're going to have a second wave. We don't know what's going to happen with the disease. But, I would say it's conservative. And on the COVID financial update, where I list the fund balance and the estimated revenue impacts, the low loss estimate now is down to 451. High loss estimate is 1,061,000. Year to date on sales tax, we are at 306 down. So just to clarify, for the year 2020, our collections are $306,000 lower than they were last year. Our range of impacts are from 451,000 down for the year to 1,061,000. we're certainly leaning towards the low loss estimate right now for sales tax. I think that's good news. I'm still trying to be conservative. I'd rather, be able to be in a position to continue to improve these estimates than go back and forth. So I haven't brought down my estimates in line with, where I really think the sales tax is going. Just trying to be conservative as I can. I'd rather continue to improve them. But certainly, at least with the sales tax piece, we're leaning towards the low loss estimate. New York State revenue sharing, we have a range of estimates in there. The best I can tell you right now is we're aware of a 20% withholding of our first AIM payment, the first of two. We don't have any information on the second. We also don't have any information whether or not that withholding will be permanent or not. So that's really no change in that estimate there. I tweaked some of the other numbers. So when you look at the estimated budgetary loss in total with the low loss estimate, mid-range loss, and high loss, if you're looking at the low loss estimate, and this is really just accounting for the COVID-related impacts for the year, the fund balance doesn't take much of a hit in the low loss estimate scenario as of right now. We would drop from approximately 7.4 down to 6.8. And that's plus or minus what happens with the budget, this year, the budget performance in 2020. We know we have the police contract. It's going to be a draw from that. But on a positive side, I have seen very controlled spending across all departments that are going to not only cover what's in the expenditure reduction plan that I've listed on this COVID loss estimate. I believe that the expenditures are going to be lower yet. So I'm optimistic that we'll be able to make up a little bit more there. So it's not looking as terrible as it once did. But I think we have to be cautiously optimistic.
John, have you cashed that August check yet?
No, I haven't received notice of it.
Get it in the bank quick.
Exactly. Yeah, we should be getting it soon. Michelle had a question?
Yeah, thanks. When do we expect the second AIM payment? I know
it's in December. So
December.
It's gonna be a little
so it's like September and then December? The first one was?
Yes, September-ish, and then the second one is right just around the time we have a state retirement system payment. It's due December 15th. It usually comes in right before that. And that's the big one. That's out of the 3.3 million, that's the 3 million. So right now, we received notice that our $300,000+ AIM payment will be 20% will be withheld, withheld not being defined.
Right. Thank you.
But yeah, no, I think, overall things are ticking up a little bit. I think we have to just, exercise. There's still a lot of uncertainty in the future, but at least the sales tax have rebounded to the point where, we're in the low single digit losses over the prior year, and it's not as devastating as it once looked.
Do you think that's because we had a lot of people coming up from the city and vacationing here this summer and getting away and spending money?
It's tough to say. I'm sure that didn't. I think
We lost you, John.
Oh, John.
It's 9:30. He's like off duty. There he is. We can't hear you.
John, can you hear?
After such devastating hits early on, when I see only a single digit decrease in a payment news, and to actually get an increase is better yet. So
thank you. I have a question.
Sure.
And I guess this should be directed to Chairman Coop. I'm wondering if it's possible for us to have these discussions with you, John, at the beginning of our finance meetings, because I just feel like to have a better of where we are financially, as then we're looking at things to vote on.
We did talk about this at one point about months ago, and there was feeling to do that, and for whatever reason we did not. I certainly do not have any problem with putting it at the beginning, because like you say, it now occurs 2 or 3 hours later when we're all running out of steam. I would have no objection to putting it at the front end of the meeting.
It's just not even about running out of steam. It's just about really knowing how solid ground we are on or not. So
yeah.
Help inform our vote.
My point is, we tend to run through it quicker than we would have if we did it right at the beginning, late at night, and so on and so forth.
I agree, because there's information. I mean, especially right now, information changes so quickly that, from one finance meeting to the next, the information I might have for you at the end of a finance meeting could impact some of the thought processes that you have during that finance meeting. So I agree with Michelle about having it up front. I'd also just like to offer up to anyone. I mean, if you ever want to have a private meeting with me, feel free. I mean, over the years, countless aldermen have come in, whether it's on the phone or you come to my office, I'm here every day, and wear a mask, whatever. I mean, it just, we can get, like, on a personal one-to-one level, I can get a lot more detail than I can in one of these 5-minute conversations about finances at our finance meeting.
So, John, you're comfortable with putting this at the front end of the meeting?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's good.
I am too.
It just provides
opposed to doing that. Okay, we will do that then.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. You want to go through general fund expenditure highlights?
Sure, Doug. So we are 60, and this is where I was going with my conversation about spend the city budget. So we're roughly 5 percentage points below where we're at for the year, right? We've spent 61.9 or 66.67%. Keep in mind that every 1% represents over $400,000 of spending. 5 points down, we're about $2 million under in spending. Now, a lot of that is part of the mayor's plan, but we're also below that through additional conservation by the departments, okay? And then when you go through the categories, regular pay is underspent. Almost every major category is underspent. Retirement accumulation, we have some payouts. We know the departments will have to come in to cover those. Unemployment insurance is one category that will be overspent this year, and it will be overspent significantly. We've had a number of fraudulent insurance claims, unemployment insurance claims, that we are working with New York State. We're waiting on reimbursement. This was something that hit municipalities and employers all over the country. So we're feverishly with, it wasn't a lot of claims, but each one is a good amount of money. So you want me to get into more detail?
No.
I think we've covered this before, but essentially what happened is there was a Secret Service alert that went out to employers across the country that there was an unemployment scam stemming from Nigeria. And what was happening is employers were getting, basically fraudsters were getting paid from New York State unemployment. They were defrauding New York State unemployment. And before they were even confirming the claims with the employer, they're actually paying them. And because we pay our New York State unemployment on a reimbursement basis, we're actually getting bills for the fraudulent claims. Of course, we dispute with New York State. We have fraudulent claims in. We spoke to their fraud unit. They're in the system, but they are completely overwhelmed from employers all over the state. And a lot of the municipalities that I speak with all got hit. So it wasn't a fraudulent attack on the city. It was a fraudulent attack on New York State unemployment. But until they get sorted out, all these fraudulent claims are on the employer's bills. So, we have a number of them that are there. Couple, you may have got phone calls from me. I was just checking anyone who showed up on unemployment. We're making calls, making sure they legitimate, not legitimate, actually unemployed, appear to be legitimate, but may not have been. So it was a lot of work on our end, but I at least have it isolated, and we haven't had any new fraudulent claims in quite a while. So,
Okay.
But that's where we're at. So we're in a holding pattern until New York State can get this unraveled. But it was over $50,000. So that's one account. The rest of it, I think we've covered. The contingency balance prior to tonight was $944,035, and
Our general talked about the fund balance.
We already talked about the fund balance. Like I said before, the fund balance is certainly tracking towards a favorable side. I would not be surprised if we take a very insignificant hit, if any, to fund balance in 2020. I think I think with holding the line on spending, with the sales tax rebounding, we do have the police contract that's going to draw from it, but offsetting that, it's really the departments are really holding the line on spending.
Okay. Other questions for John? Your motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? I just remind you, the first budget meeting will be Monday, October 26th. Monday, October 26th.
This is any
First budget meeting.
Will that be into 12 o'clock?
6:30 virtual meeting. Hopefully we can screen share all the documents. You got my notice on that today, so we'll work on that. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.